Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Fox, and today I wanted to introduce you to what I believe to be the single best legendary build that I have created to date. This build is based on one of my most successful videos to date, which is an old legendary skill support build, and that build was designed to be used in conjunction with other skill builders. So this doesn't work very well if all of your teammates are on weapon based builds, but if they are on skill builds, what this will do is buff the living hell out of their damage. I just ran a few tests with one of my clanmates, Losh915, so thanks Losh for jumping in and letting me use and abuse you for a few minutes. But on his standard hardwired kinetic momentum capacitor turret build, so pretty standard sort of skill build, just by default he was hitting about 201k per bullet on his assault turret, and when I buffed I did what I was supposed to with this build. I buffed his damage to 367k, so we are talking a substantial increase in damage. I buff my own damage by a very similar percentage. It's usually about 80 to 90% additional damage, and because this applies to all 4 skill builders in your team, obviously yourself included, it's like having an extra 2 people with you. It is insane. You will melt heavies, you will melt bosses. You know, this build has both CC crowd control, the ability to stun lock, and the ability to buff everything. It's fantastic. I've been running a build similar to this for a while, and with the introduction of some of the new things in TU12, this build has reached its new form. And yeah, honestly, you're going to love running this. It plays so well. Even if you solo queue into Legendary and you're with other skill builders, they are going to adore you for running this. So what we'll do in the usual fashion is go through the build. Of course, I will timestamp this in the description if you want to go straight to those parts. I will quickly demonstrate how it works in the firing range after the build, and then what I'll do is load into some legendary content, probably in the summit, just to show you how this works. So we'll go to the build first. Now, you do need to start with Technician. The reason being, you need the Artificer Hive. That is one of the core parts of this build, but it does also give us a +1 skill tier. So as you can see here, you can choose to roll one of your pieces to either blue or red. I think blue is definitely safest. You don't need the red really, but as you're going to be firing your Scorpio quite consistently, it is a really good option to have that red. I'll let you choose what you prefer there, but you definitely want to have 5 yellow and then the remaining one being red or blue. Scorpio is one of the other centerpieces of this build. This actually has a number of enhancements to the original skill support build. So the main source of damage, or one of the main sources of additional damage, is from shooting a target 7 times. If you read the description on the right there, you've got the 1, 3, 6 and 7 shells fired. The 7th one, they take an additional 20% damage from all sources. So because it's from all sources, all of your skills, your additional shotgun shots, your teammates' weapons and skills, all of them are going to be buffed by 20%. It's fantastic and it works really well. The other advantage of Scorpio is it is a stun lock beast. A lot of people don't know this or just haven't maybe even thought about it. But Poison, Disorient and Shock, which is the 1, 3 and 6 shells, all stun an enemy. When I say stun, I mean they do that stagger where they sort of drop to their knees because they've been hit by a CC status effect. Now in legendary content, Poison doesn't seem to work for this, but the Disorient and Shock, the Disorient will cause them to stagger down to their knees and the Shock will simply glue them in place, which is perfect against the heavies and legendary that will just bleed you, the Warhounds because they get stunned by Shock, and of course just bosses in general. So in heroic content, even Poison staggers, so you can just fire 1 shot onto each of the different ads just to keep them stun locked so that your teammates can do all their additional damage, and when it comes to the boss you can just fire more shots into them to disorient, shock and eventually give them that 20% damage debuff. Scorpio is God's tier for this build. It works really well with our backpack talent Opportunistic, which I'm going to come to in a second, as they do stack very well. Yeah, this is an absolute must for this build. Scorpio can be achieved from the season pass at level 55. Well worth your time farming out any high XP activities to get this as soon as possible, because it is key to this build. We're running 3 sets of Empress International, or 3 pieces of Empress International should I say. This is replaced my old Murakami set. It's very powerful as it gives us skill efficiency on top of the skill damage. So skill efficiency, just to reiterate, is 10%. Or it's a 1-for-1 ratio. 1% of skill efficiency is 1% of every skill stat in the game. Just to quickly list them: skill damage, skill haste, skill repair, skill health, skill duration, and I think there's another one. But basically every skill stat in the game is all included. So this is actually 20% skill damage if you run Empress International. But the skill haste and all the skill duration is probably the most important thing here. Skill duration is top tier for this build, as you want your turret and artificer to last as long as humanly possible. You want every piece rolled similar to this: high skill haste, high skill damage. If you don't get skill haste on it, it is not the end of the world, as we're using BTSU to get the cooldown of our hive substantially faster than any skill haste build. And of course the drone, not the drone, sorry, the turret, you know, it has a very small cooldown. I know we're in the firing range, so it's showing us a reduced value here, but this is usually 10-11 seconds with a little bit of skill haste. So, and this is up for, you know, sort of 4 or 5 minutes. So yeah, it's not the end of the world if you don't get skill haste. Just make sure you have skill damage in every piece. My chest is unfortunately skill damage and status effects, not the end of the world. And then my final piece of Empress is once again skill haste and skill damage. This piece of course can be rolled to red. Where you have those pieces is up to you. The only 2 fixed pieces of this build are BTSU Data Gloves and the Emperor's Guard. The chest talent that we're running is Overwatch. So this is the lowest, yet one of the most important buffs to this build, because it enhances both weapon and skill damage. It's one of the, you know, unlike the Artificer, it does buff everything. All you need to do is sit in cover and you will buff everybody's damage on their skill, weapon and status by 12%. So this literally affects everything. A very powerful talent, and again one of the key sort of central parts of this build. Our backpack is Wyvern. I think Wyvern is a great choice here because it gives us 10% skill damage on top of the 20% we're already gaining from Empress. Once again, this is rolled to skill haste and skill damage, and I've actually put a skill duration mod on here. My other 2 pieces do have skill haste mods, but this is skill duration. Honestly, if you run 3 skill duration mods, I wouldn't blame you. The skill haste that you get on this build just from BTSU alone is plenty. So, you know, just I would say if you've got tons of skill haste already rolled onto your armor, just put some skill duration mods. You know, experiment with it and see what you want, but you probably couldn't go wrong just running all skill haste, to be fair. Our backpack talent is Opportunistic, one of the most powerful yet underused talents in the game. I've used this in a previous build as well with Scorpio. This is essentially just a skill equivalent of that build. Enemies you hit with shotguns and marksman rifles amplifies the damage they take by 10% from all sources for 5 seconds. Guess what? Yes, it stacks with Scorpio. Scorpio is a shotgun, so we're going to be getting 20% additional damage from Scorpio, an additional 10% additional damage, or should I say incoming damage, to the enemy from Opportunistic, and 12% damage that we're buffing our team. So these stack really well with each other. We're running the Murakami Named Knees Emperor's Guard. These are a Dark Zone exclusive that can drop from your Season Pass caches. This gives us 20% skill duration. If you don't have these, you still want Murakami in this build. That 20% skill duration is fantastic. If you don't have any good Murakami, you could run Hana Yu, or you know, even if you wanted to get a Badger Tough in there if you really wanted. But I honestly think that Murakami, the named Murakami, is your top choice, followed very closely by any other Murakami. The armor regen at 1% isn't much, but it is really good for legendary content just to keep you topped off in longer fights. You can just sit back because you're not going to be too exposed here, and you can use your shotgun from crazy range to apply that 20% debuff. So the 1% is actually very helpful. BTSU Data Gloves offer us a number of benefits. Since its buff a few seasons ago, they now give us 15% hive skill haste per skill tier. As we are at skill tier 6, that's 90% skill haste that we are getting for our hive, our Artificer hive. So we're going to get this back all the time. If you have to pop it to get your overcharge, you're going to get it back super fast because it does stack with the overcharge as well. Of course, as I'm sure you will know, the original talent that's still there, detonating a hive refreshes your skill cooldowns and grants overcharge for 15 seconds. If it's skill tier 6, this also applies to all other allies. So not only are we giving the enemies a 30% damage, incoming damage reduction, a debuff by using Opportunistic and Scorpio, we're giving our team 12% from Artificer, the ability to overcharge their skills to make them way more powerful every 2 minutes. And on top of all of that, have a look at the buff amount that comes with the Artificer Hive. If you look on the 6th row down there, on the stats on the right hand side, you'll see buff amount is 70%. Yes, that is 70% skill damage. Now, I don't know if this is every part of skill efficiency. I know that skill efficiency was added at a later date, but they do kind of use that terminology in the description of the Artificer Hive. I'm unclear if it also boosts all of the other stats. I know for a fact that it includes skill repair because you can quite literally see it there. So it will repair the skills to nearly 100% every time a hive hits them, and it refreshes their duration by 15 seconds each time. So not only are you making all of your teammates' skills last longer and heal up, but they're doing 70% more damage, and that's on top of everything else that we've just applied here. And this all comes from running BTSU with the hive. My other skill is simply an assault turret, so that I have a way of applying my own damage. You can use any skill that you want here, but it will be best to be a deployable skill, as you want it to be sat in the hive at all times to maximise that damage. And what you essentially want to do is get your entire team to all have their skills. So you should have really 4 turrets inside the hive radius. So just to sort of demonstrate what a lot of that means, because I know there's a lot of stats and damage debuffs and damage buffs in there, what I'm going to do is show you exactly what it looks like before and after the buffs are applied. So I think my Artificer is probably going to catch this, isn't it? Yeah, because I know when it's holstered on your back it still buffs your skills. So what we'll try and do is get some damage on this. Okay, wait for the Artificer to run off. It's 150 with the Artificer. What we just want to see here is base damage. I think it's 110 or 114k. So remember that number, we're at 114k. Now let's see what it does with all of the buffs applied. Where's all my numbers gone? Okay, that was weird. 222k. Can you see that? 222k up from 114. That's because I've got Overwatch, I've got Opportunistic, I've got the 20% from this, I've got the Artificer Hive that's apparently sat on my head for some reason. So we've gone from 114k, just without any damage at all, any damage buffs, to 222. That's an insane amount of damage. And this stacks very well with multiplicative talents. I don't have Glass Cannon, I don't have Memento, I don't have Waveform, I don't have kinetic momentum or anything like that. Imagine if you are running this build that's buffed me by nearly 100%, 114 up to 222k, and don't forget that's per bullet. This thing fires out like 10 bullets per second. Imagine if you're running with a team that has Glass Cannon and Waveform, or kinetic momentum and the Memento exotic backpack with their capacitors, and they're already doing about 200 plus damage. Honestly, it is ridiculous the amount of damage that this buffs. And you can even buff your own damage to greater heights by just simply using an in-sync weapon once you've hit the 7 stacks with your Scorpio. So yeah, the damage is through the roof. It's just ridiculous, and it just pairs so well with other skill builders. So that's enough talking. I know I'm getting a little bit carried away with this build. I just, honestly, I've tested this already, and it's brokenly strong. What I'm now going to do is demonstrate just how powerful it is by queuing into a match-made Legendary Summit, and then you can see just how much it's buffing everybody else and just how quickly we take down a room of outs. Right, so we've loaded into a Legendary, level 1. Let's see how we get on. So what I'm going to do here is throw this out here. We'll probably get, maybe stick this like here somewhere, I guess. Now the good thing with Overwatch is even though the stacks are building up, you can cover to cover and they continue to build up. Oh, that's going to pop me out of cover if I go here. There we go. So even though this is a shotgun, you can still fire it from range and apply Opportunistic. And I know that sounds a bit strange, but Opportunistic is such a powerful damage resistance debuff, 10% multiplicative extra incoming damage. It doesn't really make a difference if you're doing no damage with your shotgun. You are just there to apply the debuffs from Scorpio and Opportunistic. So like even from this range, if there's stuff that's just over there that you can see, just shoot it anyway. If they're really far away, you can of course switch to your perfectly in sync weapon if you want, and that's why it's good to have the Harmony or the test subject as your backup. Why are they sitting so far back? But you don't need to. You can. I fire my shotgun from miles away. Yeah, that guy's most definitely dead. Probably a bit dangerous sitting this far forward, but definitely too dangerous sitting this far forward. So I'm going to stay in cover this whole time to keep Overwatch active so my guys don't lose their damage. Just a bit of clever manoeuvre in there, as you do. Let's get some debuff spread on all these. Can't see that guy, yes I can. It's already on 188k. Oh, it's on this one at the moment. 274k. Was that 274 or 247? I can't see because my damage numbers are stupid. And I've not even procced in sync. I think I hit 301k there. 301k and I have BTSU data gloves on. I don't have glass cannon. I don't have waveform. If it's doing this to my damage, imagine what it is doing to these guys. Like, if they've actually got waveform, memento, glass cannon, nothing but skill damage, you know, raw damage builds, I dread to think what the damage number is going to go up to for them. They must be over 300k, if not higher. Not too much going on here, so apologies if this gameplay is a little bit dull. It's more just to show you how this works in Legendary. These guys are quite passive. If anything rushes us, I can stagger it by getting 3 shots to apply the disorient, which will cause them to drop to their knees. And I can pretty much guarantee that by then they're going to be dead. Even heavies get melted super, super fast. That's a bit too far away, so let me... That isn't too far away. There we go. See that stagger? Woo! Tunistic procs. There we go, there's the extra damage on it. Oh, it's insane. Look how fast they go down. It's crazy. And he was miles away as well. Our turrets were not getting the full sort of accuracy there. I'll try and find a heavy in the next room. If there is, that'll be a good sort of demonstration, just to see how fast they melt. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're all getting the idea already. Everything is sort of dying very, very quickly with this build, and if you play this with a group of friends and you're running skill builds and one of you has it on, then you know it's going to be even better. Like, these guys aren't in chat with me. I think all 3 of them are running skills, admittedly, but yeah, when you're in a group and all 4 of you have your turrets within range of that artificer, see you later. Anything else in the room, because it's going to be dead. Hopefully there'll be a heavy in here. I do want to kind of demonstrate it against the heavier boss. Oh, another good thing that I forgot to mention, artificers work with the skills deployed by this. If you can clear these out and get your artificer in range of this, it buffs every single skill that this thing deploys. So that's a nice little tip or secret there for you. I know it's not quite Top Tip Thursday, so apologies for, you know, jumping the gun a bit there, but yeah, if you can actually manage that, it works really well. What I'm going to try and do here is get into cover here just to start capturing this. So I'm going to let me capture it from this side. I'm probably quite far forward here. I'm hoping that my guys push with me with their skills. Because the pellet spread's so big at this range, it's hitting multiple enemies. But I'm applying opportunistic to everything. It's irrelevant that I'm doing hardly any weapon damage, because I'm increasing the damage that they take by way more than, you know, what I'm losing out on.
Rogue striker drone detected.
Okay, it looks like we're not going to get any heavies, but that's all good. Well, to be fair, there's probably no reason to push this any far forward. It is just the same sort of gameplay. So screenshot the build if you would like to. Let me know your honest thoughts on it. I'm really impressed with this build. I think it's amazing. You know, I absolutely love running support builds, because if you run a build that enhances everybody else's damage by more than you are losing out, well, that can only be a good thing, because that just equates to more total damage across the 4 stack. Oh, here's a heavy. Here we go. So, you know, I love support builds personally. I've always been a huge fan of them. Oh, look at, I've not even applied any kind of debuff other than Overwatch and Artificer, and look how fast he went down. It's crazy good. So yeah, we're going to call it quits there. Thank you very much for watching the video. Please do let me know your thoughts on this build. Can you see yourself running this with other skill users? Do you think this is a good idea, or have I just wasted a bunch of your time here? Please be honest in the comments. I look forward to reading through them and answering. And until then, I'll see you all in the next video.